What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Scales Success Reptile Podcast. So it's the second Tuesday of the month, and that means today we have a Western Hognose breeder. Um, they're running a little bit behind schedule, so we're just waiting for them to jump on. But that gives us time to go through what's going on here at Clover's Reptiles. So we said this weekend we just had another show. We've been really pushing hard on the shows during this last couple months. It's helps us get our name out there and meet new people. So we just finished Scales Expo last, was it 2 weeks ago? We had Ryan, the organizer of Scales Expo, on the podcast, and Scales Expo, was I think it was like 90% reptile and like 10% aquatic. So met a couple aquatic people and made some contacts with the local aquatic community here in Miami. So I'm really excited to actually gonna go visit one of the aquatic farms here in Miami. So really cool show. So we did that show. Great props to Ryan. He did a good job there trying to with putting this whole thing together, getting a good setup, getting good vendors. So I'm looking forward to next year because he is probably planning to do this as an annual event. So if you guys want to come down to sunny South Florida, Daytona Beach next year, keep a lookout for Scales Expo. So, and then we sold a couple animals to first time Western Hognose keepers. So that's always plus. That's been the what's it called? The trend for our sales in at shows is selling for the first time Western Hognose keeper. What else? I think what else we got going on. Um, you know, we have our Morph Market, our Husbandry Pro Store, all what's it called? Always being updated weekly. So we have a still good amount of babies, but we all are shipping a good amount of babies out. So for now, let's say hi to a couple people that are already here joining us while Herpin Harbins finishes setting up and joins us. So we got Eric's Morph Factory. What's going on, brother? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for support. He was also at Scales Expo. Let's see who else we got. North Star Exotics. What's going on? Thank you for stopping by. Always supporting us as well. Dustin, how's it going, man? Thank you for jumping in. My evening is doing pretty well. Busy week, busy day for me, but got to keep the show going. Aaron, Geeke, Bosa Reptiles. I keep want to say Bosa Balls, but he's expanding his collection, so he's now Bosa Reptiles. Thank you for joining in, man. Always appreciate the support. Jesse Armand, what's going on? I think first time I'm seeing you on here, but thank you for joining. Always support, always like having new people viewing the channel and tuning into the interviews that we do with all the great people in our community. Salty Brood, Jose, thank you for joining us, man. Boston Hogs on Instagram. They just got into the reptile world this year, at least as breeders. He's starting to build up his collection with hognose and ball pythons. So go check him out on Instagram. He's also a family doing it together like us. So Jesse Armand from CSLA Reptiles. All right. Thanks for clarifying that. Thanks for joining, Jesse. Billy, what's going on? Good seeing you again here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for support. Clarity, also a newer person I've seen. Purchased one of their snakes a month ago. Beautiful, healthy. Oh, thank you so much. Love seeing the updates from the customers that we have that have purchased a beautiful baby from us. I've been getting a lot of updates through messages, through social media, and it's really cool to see how they're growing and seeing that they're making somebody else happy with the Western Hognose. Jordan Hertland Reptiles. What's going on, brother? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for support. Mutant Geckos, Mutant Reptiles now, because he's also doing Western Hognose, and this is Kevin, another local Miami guy. He's probably like another 10, 15 minutes away from us. I I've said it before, I have such a good concentration of hognose breeders in my area. Josh is just joining in. They're in the backstage. I already see them. So we're going to keep a couple people, and then we're going to bring them on. Andrew Heckler, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining. Thank you for supporting us. Kathleen Price, here for the Harbins. That's great to hear that Harbins have here is people coming and supporting them. Ashley Cameron, another of my customers that just got one of our babies last week. And I'm also getting updates, and glad that I was able to get you a beautiful hognose. So thank you everybody for joining in. I got a quick shout out for some of the partnerships that we have with Scales Reptile on the podcast. We have Ship Your Reptiles. Use Clover's 15, save $15 on one of your shipping labels on their website. Go ahead and do that. I've been using them for all my shipments this year. Not one problem with any of the shippings, and their website to use is one of the easiest things to do. Just put in your zip code, the receiver, and the hubs come up straight. You don't have to be searching for hubs online, on Google it. It's really easy. So I do recommend them. And like I said, they're a partner with us. So use our code Clovers15 for your next shipment. And then we have Husbandry Pro, another partnership with us. If you guys want to take your husbandry keeping and record keeping to the next level, make sure you guys go do a 30-day free trial with our link. It's also in the description in this channel. In this video. It's great. And I know we're going to talk about it with Herpin Harbins because I know they use it and they enjoy it. So like I said, scan the code or use the link in the description and go try it free for 30 days. All right. So far, that's it for Clover's Reptile. So we're gonna bring on Herpin Harbins now and get them to let's have hognose talk and a couple other species they also do. All right, here we go.
Hey.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Good. I'm hearing a echo.
Your microphone over there, turn that one off.
Okay.
Check. Still.
Should be up top.
It's on.
There we go. Is that better?
Let me check now.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it. Now let me see if the viewers are hearing. Hey, can you guys tell me if you guys are hearing an echo? I'm hearing one. Oh, you guys don't have the live playing on another device here, right?
It's shut off, but I can turn the whole thing down. Let me turn it off.
See.
Okay.
Check.
Any better now?
I'm still hearing it for some reason.
Okay.
Let me see. Wonder if it's on my end. I wasn't here when I was speaking. Are you guys have this set up through your camera? Your laptop right now?
No, we were streaming through the cell phone, and then we had the laptop open to watch the chat. But we disabled the microphone on the laptop.
Okay.
Should we just turn on the laptop?
No, it shouldn't. As long as there's no audio coming through there, I shouldn't be able to hear myself.
Okay.
Yeah, the viewers saying they can hear the echoes.
Huh.
It could be internet. We live out in the middle of nowhere, so.
No, the stream is good.
Okay.
Let me see if I take my AirPods out. Sometimes. Yeah, I'm still hearing the echo.
Let me open that back up. That's not it.
Try shutting the last down just to see if it fixes it.
Yeah, now we're hearing the echo a little bit too.
I hear it now.
You are okay.
I don't know if I can
Wonder if I can pull it up on here.
Try your camera on this. You have to go to that link he sent us.
Now I'm in a weird spot though.
All right, guys. Can you guys hear an echo if their mic is muted? I just muted their mic. Let me know if you guys hear pretty good because there's an echo or not when they're muted. Yeah, I don't hear it when they're muted, so it might be the. Okay. Check. You guys turned off the.
Yeah, we don't have anything else running, and it's just our phone.
Reason. I think when I mute you guys, it doesn't echo anymore.
That's weird, isn't it?
Okay, turn yours off. We'll go to another phone. Well,
I'm gonna remove and the live and then come back in on your phone.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull it up on our laptop. I don't know if that would do any different.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
All right. Perfect. All right, guys. So while they're trying to figuring out their technical stuff, let me see. I know a couple people more people joined in. So let me see what's going on here. Read the chat a little bit. Who else we got here? Billy, Geckos, Ashley. Yeah. There you go. What else? So just a quick background. Herpin Harbins. They are a husband-wife duo. They I found them because of Western Hognose, but they also breed ball pythons, Western Hognose, and corn snakes. They are back. Let's see if it works.
Any better now?
Hear it.
Still an echo?
Yeah, it might just be the room.
Okay.
Do you guys have AirPods?
Mm-mm.
Should we try it?
So we're gonna jump off. We're gonna try it on the laptop.
Okay.
I know that echo's got to be annoying. All right.
All right. Let me see. Andrew Heckler said those bird eaters. Okay, seems like there's some chat. So yeah. Okay, they're back on the laptop. Let's go. All right. There's no echo now. There we go.
Any better there?
Yeah, no echo at all.
Nice.
What in the world? Okay.
Yeah. Guys, in the chat, give me a thumbs up if there's no echo on your guys' end, and then we'll get the chat going. But I can't hear anything, so we should be good. Yeah, they're saying it's better now. Are you guys good on your end now?
There's a little bit of a delay, but I think we can work with it.
Okay. I'll take a pause when I ask something, so we're not caught into. All right. So I was introducing you guys, Alisha, and you guys are a husband and wife. What's it called? A team, right? So can you guys give us a quick background about you guys and how did you get into reptiles and how many breeds are you guys are working with right now? How many species?
I'll start out with the origin story. My dad's been breeding snakes since I could remember. I was always his assistant, and as I got older, he let me take care of the rodents. So I was like the mouse technician. So I'd make a 4-H project out of it, getting a scholarship, do all that stuff too. So it was a lot of fun helping Dad be a part of it. But after I moved away, went to college and whatnot, just had reptiles as pets. Ended up meeting Alisha in college, and she showed dogs. So it was kind of the similar competition kind of thing. Like, what can you breed? How excellent can they be? And we did the dog thing for a long time.
Yeah, actually, I grew up in dogs. In 1985, I started showing my first collies. Competed for decades, I guess, in the dog show world, and met Josh when I was actually in veterinary school already, and he was in undergrad. And actually, I had a snake then. It was a corn snake. I still have him. He's 28 years old, and so we've had reptiles. I didn't have a lot as a kid. My parents let my sister have an iguana. I got to have my corn snake once I moved into college. Actually, my first snake was a ball python I caught in the backyard back in 1993, and my mom was freaking out. I put it in a garbage can. It was a probably a female, probably had some crazy morph in there, and I ended up having to give it to a guy at the high school. My parents wouldn't let me keep it.
Your Uncle Terry's.
Yeah, well, no, it was somebody down the road, but so we started dating when I was in veterinary school, and we had corn snakes, and just he had a iguana, a chameleon at one point back in the day, and then honestly, we going and hanging out at some shows with Tom a few years ago, and we just kind of fell back in love with the reptiles again, and then we got a hognose from him, which just really sucked us in, and
that was the beginning of it.
The beginning of it all, and as a Toffee Conda. It was supposed to be a girl, but it ended up being a boy, but he's still with us, and he's our first hognose. And it almost kind of turned into this like exponential increase in the hognose. Within like a month, we had 3 more, and then within 3 months, we had 18. And then, it just, how hognose are, it's like potato chips. You can't just have one. So it just kept going and going. And we acquired a few more corn snakes over the years. And then we did end up acquiring a few ball pythons over the year, a couple of years, and we've actually started having some ball python babies the last couple of years too. And so, but the hognose is by far our species. So.
Okay, so the hognose was the base of everything, and
Definitely.
then just started adding. So you guys are doing hognose, ball pythons, and corn snakes currently, right? Okay. And then the dogs, any more dogs, or just have pets?
Well, at this point, I basically left the show world probably about 3 years ago. It's a different world than the reptile world. And I mean, I know a lot of people feel like there's competition in the reptile world, and I don't really feel the same way as the competition it was in the show world. Being a veterinarian too, I would go off for my dog shows to chill and relax and have a good time. And I was working just as much as the dog shows as I was when I was at home working.
It was a whole lot of like, hey, real quick, can you look at this bump? Or hey, real quick, can you look at this dog?
Do you have medication with you and all this kind of stuff? And it became like it was no longer my hobby and escape, and perspective changed over the years too of the dog show world, and just where it was going. And when the snakes came along, it kind of fulfilled an area that allowed me to still do genetic brainstorming and breeding and seeing babies, but not with that show world still attached to it the same way. So it was a lot of a relief, because I had been in the show world for so long. I really didn't know anything different since I literally grew up in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you know what? And I think like having the balance of it actually being enjoyable, and then it just being just a lot of work. Especially you both have full-time careers, correct? Alisha, you're a veterinarian, and Josh, what is your full-time career?
I pretend to know how to be an engineer.
Pretty good gig you got then.
He does a pretty good job at it.
Yeah. So in like you're saying, if it's a two full-time jobs, then it doesn't become enjoyable anymore. And I see where maybe pivoting from the dog show world changed after the years, especially like you said, you're going there to almost work double at the shows. Yeah. So now, how long ago was that you guys decided to start breeding?
I guess technically, right after we got Morty, we decided that probably we were going to raise him or raise her up. We thought it was a girl, and we kind of decided at that point. I guess it was about 4.5 years ago when we decided to actually start breeding, and it was strictly at that point the hognose. I mean, even if you talked to us like 3 years ago, we were like, we're not doing anything but hognose. I mean, we were pretty strict and hardcore. And I've learned to not say never because things change and we morph as this progresses. And so, I do say we will always have hognose. I know that, but I know now that I'm never going to say we're never going to do other species because we do appreciate a lot of other things about the other species too. But I guess 4.5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty good amount of time already actually breeding 4.5 years ago. When you guys did your first season, how many pairings did you guys have? Do you remember?
We had 3 the first year. One double clutch. I think we ended up having like 44 babies that year. And then the second year we got into the mid 60s. And then this year we actually hovered right around 60s because there was a female from last year that I rested this year. She was a smaller female. She did fine. She had a clutch of 9 last year, but she just didn't rebound like I wanted to and get weight on her. So I pulled her out of rotation. So she did not get brood-mated last year. She's just still getting, I mean, she looks good now. She got all her weight back on her, but I didn't feel right putting her back in the brumation after she wasn't rebounding like I wanted her to. But this year it's going to get a little bit crazier now that we're technically coming up on our 4th season. We have 11 breeding females now. So we'll jump up pretty good this next time.
Okay. And what about the other species?
So corn snakes, we actually had 5 breeding females this last year. One ended up having egg-bound issues that I had to do aspirates to clean her out. She's doing fine, but I have also decided not to breed her again. She's a het scaleless, and she's never been a huge snake. So I'm gonna get her rebounded and put her in a pet home.
It's one of the perks of having a vet on site.
Yeah.
We can tinker with things.
And but this year we're actually going to do less corn snakes this year because they just keep having them. They just coming out of your ears. There's so many baby corns that come out of these guys. So we're actually going to go down to 3 breeding females this year and probably do rotation every other year to give the girls a break and then not have 7,000 corn snakes. Our ball python numbers have grown, but I guess probably right now we have 3, hatching clutches. We've got 3 more girls that are probably going to lay this year. And we've already had 6 girls go this year. So we actually have a lot of ball python females, but a lot of those, again, are going to be pulled out of projects. And then we're, I guess, moving to higher end projects with the ball pythons. But I'm going to try to keep the ball python girls at 10 or less per year, just for numbers.
Okay. Yeah. There seems like you guys have a good core for every species so far. But so going back to like the base, the hognose, you guys plan to keep adding as the year progresses, or you are okay.
Yeah. So right now we've got our 11 females that are going into brumation next week. But then next year there's projected of 24 breeding females, and then the following year I think for what we've held back so far 36. So yeah, each year is getting kind of nuts, and so which is fine. I mean, I'm ready for it, and but I think I'm ready for it. But yeah, we're growing them and actually reducing the numbers of the other 2 species.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, okay, that's interesting that you're going to reduce the other number of the 2 species. I know you have more, you're producing more hognose, so you're probably selling more hognose and stuff like that. But if it was like a equal amount, do you think it'll still be the hognose that move more for you guys when you guys just show and vent and morph market, or you think it will be like a 50-50 between hognose and ball
Yeah.
pythons?
Yeah, definitely the hognose move at the shows and on morph market faster than anything else. And so that's part of the reason that that's still going to be our main project. And that's our favorite species. We went to a show this last weekend and we sold more hognose than corn snakes and ball pythons, although we had more corn snakes than anything and quite a few ball pythons. And so numbers wise, we sold a higher percentage of hognose there. And as far as morph market, we've only sold a few ball pythons on there. We actually haven't even listed corn snakes on there yet. And we've sold, that's where we're going to get more of our sales from our hognose, especially some of the higher end things that we're not going to sell at the local shows. So that's part of it. That and I think there's a saturation of ball pythons right now, and maybe even a little saturation of corn snakes. And so I don't want us to just be producing a bunch of animals just to produce them that may end up not going to good homes because they're lower end animals and things like that. So we're trying to focus on, mid-range to higher end animals that are used in breeding programs and, those kind of things, so that we're not just, snake mills, like a puppy mill. We don't want to be a snake mill. So I guess that's the way my brain thinks about it, is I don't want to just make excess. And so trying to limit those excessive productive animals.
Yeah. And that's an interesting, a good point of view, I think. One thing is, especially a ball python, because the low end for ball python, it's a big difference from a low end on hognose. A normal hognose is still $150 usually at a show or on morph market. So I see that. Personally, I wanted to also produce normals and just like albino for pet, but like you said, like I was saying, it's still within that $150 to $250 range. So it's still an investment that somebody needs to make. And most of the times when people put money into it, they're going to take better care. Exactly. So I see where you're coming from on the ball python stuff. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we've had probably the most issues with the animals that are sold at the lowest prices, as far as people coming back and like, what about this? What about, like, they need their handheld for every single thing. And I saw that in the dog world too. And whenever I would sell a dog and I would sell it for like lower just to get it into a home, it never failed. Those were the people that would come back and ask about every little hair on its head, and it was, but you end up selling with value to those animals and to people that have the capability of caring for them. You never hear from them again. You just don't. I mean, they know they've already done the research. They've already invested for their equipment. And I saw that in the dog world, and I see it here in the reptile world. And I don't want us to overexpend ourselves on a lot of animals that are going to end up in that low end, that we're actually going to have to work harder to try to help those people. Which we don't mind helping people. We love helping people, but we also get worried about those animals if they don't have the care that they need, because the people are barely able to afford that $50 snake.
Yeah. And then also too, if you look at it on the business side too, if you're producing, you're selling these animals, the lower end animals, by the time you produce, you feed them, you take care of them, a lot of times you're losing money on it. On a $50 animal, you're gonna lose money on it. And like you said, it's easier to spend $50. I'm just using that number, but it's easy to spend $50 and forget about that animal or just let the animal go. Then it's $200, $150, $200. Then you really got to think about, okay, I spent $150, $200 on this animal. I got to put more effort into it.
Do something. Take care of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then some people that are looking for that range and higher, like you said, have done research already. already have the enclosure set up and just ready to go, just waiting to purchase the animal usually. Where on the other side of the spectrum, I especially going to shows, I see that it's um, you know, very impulse buys, lowest price possible, and they still need to get everything set up and figure out how to take care of the animal. And I see that, it can definitely go really bad. I'm not saying everybody, but there is a higher percentage that the animal's not gonna thrive, or maybe the people aren't gonna put in the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
now
we see that too at the shows.
Yeah, and I've done, like, when I was in my intro, I've done a couple shows the last couple months. I'm just trying to get out there, especially with the local community down here in South Florida, get our name out there, because this is our first breeding season. So we don't have the biggest reputation like some of the other bigger breeders. So we have to get out our name out there in front of people and start talking to the local community people that are interested in hognose or reptiles. I saw you guys just did.
That's why we go to all our local shows here. The same that you're doing is just getting the education out and an awareness that you're there, and you're there to help them. You're there to have that animal that's local that they can come and get from you directly. And we've gone to some shows locally before and had very few to sell, but we still sold some, and we still made connections with people that were wanting to learn about the species. That then came back and bought later. So I think staying in your community or in that area is vital to keep the business growing, for us that, like all of us that are newer,
We get a lot of follow-up sales too. So we talk to people at the show. We'll give one of our care sheets we put together. They get to feel comfortable with us. We try to educate them on how to be successful in keeping the animal if it's their first one. And usually the week or two after the show, we have 2 or 3 additional sales.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. There's definitely that. Like I said, I did a show this weekend, and Monday morning at 6 a.m, I had a Morph Market inquiry about a super anaconda Arctic albino, and it was going to be the first snake pet. So to spend the money on that type of animal up front was a little bit of a, they came back like 1 or 2 times to look at the animal. And then this Monday morning, she's like, okay, I thought about it over the night, and I want to put a deposit down on that.
Yeah.
Like, perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Love it. I love that.
So those are great to hear. And then I had a couple people join in tonight live that I have already sold animals to. And it's great to hear the success stories, that they're doing great and they're growing, and hearing and seeing updates. I hope all of our customers and people that purchase animals from like that can be like that, but realistically it's not, right?
Well, and that's one thing we've noticed is when we've gone to the local shows over the last couple of years, we end up getting return customers for those local shows, because they show up again and then they show us a video or a picture of the one they got from us, and then they turn around and buy another one. And to see those same people over and over is really cool, because I typically recognize them. Josh does too. We may not remember their names, but neither one of us are perfect about that. But we remember that they have one of our babies, and so it's really good to get to hear that update. And most of the time, people, they bring a little picture or something. They're excited to see, show them how big they've gotten, and then I usually tell them, well, this is their baby sister, that kind of stuff, and they love seeing the new ones that are younger that are related to them, and so that gets people excited.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that, and getting, within, like you said, staying in your community, seeing those usual reptile goers, enthusiasts come to your table. It's like, oh, I knew you guys are going to be here, so I wanted to come to the show and stop by and say hi. Even if they're not purchasing today, building that relationship and building that rapport is very important, I think.
Definitely.
So, going to like the hognose world, what are your goals for the next breeding season with hognose? Are you guys thinking about specific more for combos?
We actually, we actually have quite a few different things this year that we haven't produced yet. Probably something that we're both excited about is we actually have 3 females and 1 male from our very first clutch that are going to be very ready. A couple of them could have been ready last year, and they're pretty good sized snakes, but they're from an Arctic Shadow breeding that we did in with some toffee belly, and so they're all hit toffee belly, and I'm gonna blend them back together with a super Arctic toffee belly we got from John Rice at Fathom Hogs to try to intensify some of this toffee belly with the shadow effect. So the shadow is a dominant gene that adds like a darkening gene. It's the saddles are much, much darker. I guess some people kind of make it comparable to mocha. They're not the same though. The mocha and shadow are different. But what I like about the shadow line with Arctic is we retain a lot of contrast with it. So a lot of times with your Arctics, you start losing some of that color saturation because the Arctic is inevitably going to do that in some of the cases. What we're seeing with our Arctic shadows is they're holding and retaining a lot of that pigmentation. And so the goal is with mixing it back in with the toffee belly is hopefully having a little bit more saturated saddles on those toffee bellies with that Arctic highlighting. So we'll see how that works. And then we're still going to, our axanthic group that helps us with axanthics and in our shows. Those are pivotal. The axanthics are the first thing to go at the shows, first things to go online. Like we're running out of axanthics this year.
Because we always single clutched because she snacked on.
Yeah, she ate the second clutch. That's okay. She was apparently hungry, even though I fed her the day before, but that's how it goes sometimes. We still working with our red albino purple line that we have. We actually have Swiss chocolate. So we have Conda double het Swiss chocolate toffee belly female, and her male boyfriend is a double het toffee belly Swiss chocolate. So a little bit of harder odds with hets, but those were pretty big investment snakes for us. And so we're looking forward to seeing if we can hit on those big ones and be just excited with whatever we get out of them, honestly. We do have we've got a albino Conda het toffee belly that she's mainly here to do toffee glows, but this year I think I'm actually going to pair her with our sable het toffee belly to make some toffee double het. I'd like to work on that a little bit before I actually work on the toffee glows purely. Arctic stuff, lavender stuff coming out. So a lemon ghost, we had lemon ghost this year with sable mixed in, but this year we went out and after she proved out het sable, we've got a higher percentage lemon ghost het sable to get more intense lemon ghost sables this next year. So that's another one we're pretty excited about. So there's quite a few things in the works, and we're hoping to have a little bit more variety pack at the shows and on North Market.
Yeah, sounds like you guys have a good variety right now with sables, axanthic, lavenders, doing the polygenic stuff with the albinos. I think with the albinos, that's a must. The red line, purple line stuff, it just adds so much good color saturation to any just albino, plain albinos, and then the combos. You can't go wrong with that.
Definitely.
And then you guys are doing sunburst stuff, right?
Yeah, the sunburst. So right now we have a double het sunburst female that she is right at 2.5, and she's just not quite to the size that I want to put her on the breeding situation. So I may do like a late brumation with her early next year, or I may just wait and put her off till next year. Tom is squirting those things out left and right over there. There was no reason for us to even run that competition with him. He's got that arena covered, but we have a sunburst male and we have a double het female, but he's got some powerful genes over there right now with all his solar storms, and the solar flares are just crazy. We love going and visiting, and those things are just, saturation on the color of those animals are just unbelievable. And so So we're looking forward to that next year, but probably not one of our top projects, mainly because, you know, we've got another Harbin covering it. So,
Yeah, at Daytona and at Arlington, I saw his sunburst stuff, and by far some of the best color saturation on sunburst that I've seen. I was
Yeah.
very impressed on seeing it in person. So I see. Do you have lines from his sunburst that you guys are working from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Okay, so
sun
you guys are gonna.
the sunburst is from him, and the double het female is actually from Frame Shift, but it comes down from his stuff. So
Okay. Cool. Cool. And then the Swiss chocolate. When did you guys get into the Swiss chocolate?
well, Tom and I got standing in the backyard at Josh's brother's house, I guess 2 weeks ago.
Anytime there's a family get together,
Oh,
Alicia and
geez.
Dad run off.
Yeah, we were sitting there
They
talking, and he
scheme.
was talking about Jules' stuff. I was like, yeah, I just saw that stuff posted, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, we get a big shipment in like, about a month later. So he's actually, hopefully, I think there's some eggs on the ground, and he's going to have some stuff pretty soon. So, you know, he was able to go right in and get visuals, and that was a little bit more than we could bite off. But with the pair that we got, I was super excited because my tie is my favorite double recessive, and I don't have one because I can't seem to hit it. So that's okay. I'll just eventually probably buy one because I feel like I've got a new female this year. She'll be ready next year, so I'm hoping that she'll prove out for us for it. She's double het, so she better prove out. So, but I'm kind of excited that our Swiss chocolate has the het toffee belly in it because toffee belly is my favorite single recessive gene, and to have that double het there is exciting. So, you know, if we hit that, maybe I won't be so crazy about the Mai Tai at that point.
And it's funny because like I think the coffee bellies, by itself and any combo, it's amazing.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of the Mai Tai.
Yeah.
My first sable female that I bought was 66% het, coffee belly and bred this year, and she improved out. So this weekend, actually, I haven't mentioned to anybody other than the where I got it from. From Jenny and Armando Roster Reptiles. I got a Conda Mai Tai female from them this past weekend. Since my female didn't prove out, so that thing is beautiful. Seeing the Mai Tais, they're great. I can't wait to produce my own set.
Yeah.
And then, you know, with what Swiss chocolate is doing to the other recessives, where it's definitely deepening the colors.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, they're beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. We're excited about that.
No, I can imagine. I have a 100% het female, and I'm getting a visual male, either later on this year or early next year.
Good.
So I'm on the Swiss chocolate train too, because
you gotta be.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't want that?
yeah, because to me the Swiss chocolate Xantics, those things are nice.
Yeah,
they're very, you know.
Thing, you know, it's not a sable. I mean, when you look at those things in person, it's different head patterning, the saturation of the color is different, the color tone is different. I mean, it's its own separate cool thing. And sable is its own separate cool thing. But we're excited.
Yeah, and like, you know, I think in the next probably the next 2 years, we're gonna see so much of that pop up here in the U.S. At least, you know, we're seeing Jules pop up all the combos. So in the next 2 years, I know there's a handful of people that same thing are working to produce their first clutches either this year or next year. So I'm really excited to see what else pops up out of there.
Definitely.
I mean, Super Arctic, what's it called, Swiss chocolates.
Yeah,
I think those things are going to be yeah. Do you guys have? You said you had a Super Arctic toffee, right?
Yeah, we've got some Super Arctic stuff. We've got an Arctic female that we're going to pair with a Super Arctic Honda male this year. So we'll have Arctic, Super Arctic, and then some of our stuff, like our toffee belly stuff, is Arctic. So we hopefully will hit some Super Arctic toffee belly combinations.
You know, you're talking about the toffee glows. Um, do you like that combo? Do you enjoy it? Because
I
I've heard
I do
mixed.
like there are certain toffee glows that have good saturation. The thing is, it's
Mm,
going to be a yellowing type saturation. So that's one reason I need to go ahead and put sable into it because I want to do the sable toffee glow because you're going to get some pinks and deeper, kind of almost like sherbet color out of it. And so that's one of the ones that I wanted for a while. But after after a couple of years of growing her up, this albino conda toffee belly, it's just a beautiful thing. But then I decided, you know what? I'm not going to mess around and just make a bunch of toffee glow stuff. I'm going to make toffee glows with sable in it and really saturate that color better. So,
oh, I like that point of view because personally, I don't coffee glows haven't caught my attention. Just because it's I think those two genes muddle each other out so
yeah,
much,
yeah,
but I haven't thought about adding sable, and
yes,
that's why
sable.
there,
Yeah,
that's why there's a little bit of everybody does a little something different. I think that'd be really cool to see.
yeah.
So I don't think has anybody produced any of those. I can't think of it if anybody's produced any.
I don't. I
The
think people that
stable,
are working on it.
yeah,
Of course, Jules has produced a toffee gold Swiss chocolate as a string,
yeah,
and so of course I think he mixed everything already. He's doing all the combos over there. So I really think having the sable in that's going to make a difference. And it's a funny thing, like the same thing. Like he loves Azantic, like that's his automatic single recessive gene. I love toffee glow. I mean toffee belly. We're not into toffee. I mean, to me, it's kind of like it's two things that we love, but it doesn't do enough to be together. So I'll probably jump into that when the sable is in it, like as just because I think that combination is going to be even just more crazy. We
yeah.
are going to work on kind of our own toxic line because we have a red line toffee belly. We have a Xanthic line that's separate than the main Xanthic line that's really got a lot of black in it. So we decided let's see if we kind of have already saturated colors in our toffee bellies and our Xanthics. Are we going to get a more intense toxic? So we've got that side project that's kind of eventually we'll get there. So.
Yeah, and I know what you mean about toxics. That combo because I like Azantics and I like Toffee Bellies. When I saw Toxics, I fell in love. That was when I first started looking into Hognose and like actual combos, and that's I have to have that one day and produce
Yeah.
it. Um, Luckily, I had a visual toxic, RB toxic, and RB double het female. And the difference that the RB does in the toxic, that's what is
That's
needed.
the
Is needed
difference.
a little something, yeah,
Yeah.
something a little extra to keep that those extra colors in the
Better
saddles and stuff
saturation.
like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That makes
Yeah,
sense. And
yeah,
that
and
RPE is vital for a lot of different combinations to make that intense cleanness and enhancement of the actual gene. We've got a few RBE things, but we've got a RBE albino conda. I've never even used him. He's a beautiful, beautiful albino for just a simple albino because he doesn't have red line or purple line in him, but his
mhm,
coloration and saturation is much more intense than our non RBE line albinos.
yeah, and we're talking about adding that to Sable, and I've been debating because like Brumation's coming up, and I'm already thinking about next year pairings. So I was thinking about putting the RB toxic male to my Sable female and creating the triple hets, and hopefully getting some RBs that are triple het for that.
Yeah,
So that was where my mind is going. Instead of putting another Sable to it and creating more Sables, I think
yeah, that may
that's
be
where
a good
I'm
move.
probably gonna lean. Hmm.
Yeah, I was at work the other day, and we were oddly enough in a slow zone, and I ended up pulling up History Pro, and I'd already started building our 2024 breeding plan, and I was kind of looking at the girls, and it's like I've got I've got toffee glow males, I have that stuff that I could put with her, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna do sable and let's push out, a triple recessive. I think we're gonna be better off that long term. And I may end up selling those toffee glow boys because I don't know if I'm going to push that direction now that I've kind of made my mind up that I need that stable in that toffee glow to make me satisfied with the color saturation.
Mhm. So, you just mentioned something, and I wanted to ask you. You said you were at work and you started inputting at Husbandry Pro. When you guys start talking about, adding new genetics or adding new animals or just pairings, how does that work between you two? Is
That's
it
good.
like sit? Is
Um,
it sit down and we'll go through the,
95-5 operation, and in that I grow the mice and she plants the breedings. So I know my place.
Okay, now
But I didn't know what I like when we talk about that. And what's
and I
nice.
show him stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "What do you like?" The reason I got the axanthics, I think, are beautiful animals. Don't get me wrong. I'm not into gray. Okay, I like red and orange and stuff like that. The reason we bought that axanthic Conda het albino pair was because of him. And I saw them come available, and I said, "What do you think about this investment?" And he was like, "I want them," because I knew he wanted a super Conda axanthic snake, because that was his favorite snake. As we were learning about the Morse, every time he saw one of those, he was like, "I want that."
But that was kind of a turning point for us too, where we were phasing out of the dog show stuff, and we were like, "Are we going to do this?" And she found an opportunity to buy that breeding pair, and I was like, "Oh, that's what I like. I like that color.
Well,
and let's go for it."
And we always talk about, like, I don't usually just go rogue and go buy stuff unless I'm with his dad, and then I'm in trouble because Tom and I feed off each other.
Then it goes to 100.
And then, so then if you see, if you're at the shows together, and then like Sarah and Josh are back at the at the setup, like monitoring everything, Tom and I are off getting in trouble buying stuff, and so we're convincing each other it's okay. And so that's the only time that I really go rogue, but inevitably I always run everything by him. Like, what do you think about this breeding pair? Like, this is what I'm thinking. I think we could get this guy. Like, when we got the Lemon Ghost het sable from Jeff recently, I was like, this is the kind of stuff we'll be able to make. And he's like, do it. He was like 100% for it because he really liked those combos. He liked the snake. He wanted me to get another snake from Jeff. I was like, that one's way too out there as far as price range. I think we need to watch our investments. And then we've got this storm cloud project that's not ready yet, but it'll be ready probably next year. That's for him. That's
I want storm cloud. That had some screamers. They're almost blue.
Yeah. And so we've picked out certain projects that are, I know, something that he loves more than I do, even though I love all of them. There's really no more that I really dislike, but those are his kind of project builders for him.
But we've got different eyes for pattern and color, but we like a lot of the similar things, and we see that at the shows based on what people point at in the display.
Oh yeah.
I tend to see a lot of the guys just flock over to the axanthic stuff. They love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this weekend we had a couple come by our table, and it was the husband wanted a purple line normal Conda male, and then the wife wanted something a lot more lighter, and then and my wife was helping them out, and she showed them an RB Axanthic het toffee belly. Was it a female? I think a female, and they settled on that because that was like the middle ground for what they were both looking. It wasn't too dark and it wasn't too light. It was like right in the middle. So that was pretty cool to see that develop like right there, where like it was a compromise of what they're going to get, Yeah,
that's cool.
It was
and
really cool.
We've seen that too, and we've actually sold two before because they couldn't decide. Yeah. We're like, we'll give you a deal for both of them, and and that's kind of fun to watch when both of them get the winner snake. The snake that they both really wanted.
So, talking about like teamwork and stuff like that, and you're a vet. How does that play into the reptile world? Do you bring in your veterinary experience? Do you think that has helped you tremendously, or it's just once in a while?
So when I first got out of veterinary school, I worked for his dad for a year. I had to commute because we lived far apart, but I went and worked for him. And of course, he was then more primary small animal. And so I learned a lot from him. But he would have reptiles in every once in a while. And my mind in veterinary school was I was going to do more exotics than I actually ended up doing coming out of veterinary school. And then I ended up, because the commute was so far and there was another person in town that was needing a second vet, he actually did a lot of exotics. And so I ended up doing birds and small mammals and got to see reptiles. But I only did that for about 3 years. And then the economy went to crap and he couldn't afford me anymore. And I was working on a mobile unit at that point, doing spay neuter and preventative care and that kind of stuff. And I was doing nighttime shifts for the vet clinic that I work for now. And I basically kind of just got so far removed from reptile and small animal medicine that then once I got back into general practice, which I've been there 9 years now, the vet I work for does not like reptiles, like at all, like zero. And when I decided to get into, we talked about this, when I decided to get into us doing all this, he was like, I don't want you to feel like you have to do this as a veterinarian. And I said, you know what? I probably don't need to, because that was part of what pulled me down in the dog show world is the sucking of energy. And they're still sucking the life out of me. I love a lot of my friends, don't get me wrong. And they're really, but there's a lot of people outside of my friend bubble that continuously from the dog world, it just expects me to bend over backwards on a Sunday out of no reason. And I'm like, I don't know where this comes from. I have not got that same feeling from the reptile community, which has been a blessing. I've had people ask me questions and I've told them what I knew. And then I've also told them, well, Tom, like, why would I even pretend I have even an inkling of knowledge compared to him when it comes to veterinary medicine and reptile medicine? And of course, I get on the phone with him and say, hey, we talk about stuff a lot. It has helped me have the freedom of being able to do what I need to do medically for the animals, which honestly is very minimal. Like, I really don't have to do that much. And so there's been a few little things here and there. I had to do a little antibiotic run here, a little antibiotic run there. But, we have 253 animals in here and I don't have to do anything. And so I'm not going to do surgery on these guys. I mean, if I ever needed to have surgery done on one of the reptiles, I'll be driving to Alabama and have Tom work on it. I'm not going to pretend I'm going to be able to do that. So I think I'm going to stay removed as a reptile veterinarian because I know 3 species really good, and I know a few lizard species. Like, I help some of our technicians that have beardeds and things like that. But I am not even going to get into the realm of the boa land, all that kind of stuff. I don't have the knowledge for that. And I don't know if I have the energy to learn it at 46. I just don't have it. I'm getting old and I'm actually hoping to slow down with the veterinary medicine and do more of this. And to do that, I'm going to have to be okay with not being a reptile veterinarian. So.
Okay. I mean, and you answered my next question. I was going to ask you if you have thoughts of maybe moving more towards the reptile world as veterinarian. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then I think that you seems like you're balancing your 2 worlds right now, and you're keeping them separate. Yeah. That's really cool. I like that. And then is other than just because you went to work at a non-reptile was your practice, was it that's what drove you to not dealing with exotics, or you just decided
mainly because I had become so removed from reptile medicine while I worked on that mobile unit. When I was on that mobile unit, I was on there for 9 years, I guess. And it was dogs and cats, dogs and cats, and dogs and cats. And even when I worked for Tom and I worked for Dr. Hilla here in town, who have that reptile and exotic understanding, they were really the vet that was doing most of that work, and I was learning from them. So I never really got to where I felt like I was the vet, for the reptiles. Like, I was not going to see the big boa that came in at Dr. Hilla's for, fecal extractions or whatever the heck it was, because he was the reptile vet. I was just going to learn as much as I could from him. And so I never felt like I was a true exotics veterinarian because I never really was at that level. I was always kind of like the backup vet. And so then being removed from it for so long and then going back into a practice that had nothing to do with it, I'm literally, almost 20 years away from my reptile medicine knowledge as far as in veterinary school. And that's just too far away to be comfortable with doing stuff for other people.
Wear that hat. To say,
Yeah. I mean, I'll help anybody, talk to them about anything. I've done some stuff, here and there that I felt comfortable with. And then of course I do everything with our animals when they need it. But I'm definitely not the go-to for that. So.
But you don't want to be.
And like
I don't want to be, I guess.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, snakes and reptiles, especially snakes, are very resilient. Yeah. If you keep mainly a good diet, good supplementation, good husbandry, there's very minimal healthcare keep up that you need to do for them. So I see where it's not a must, right?
Yeah.
If it was, then there wouldn't be a lot of people breeding.
Exactly.
Because that's another thing too. Exotic pet veterinary bills can get very expensive very quick.
Very expensive.
Now with ball pythons, what hold on, we had a question here. We're on top of veterinary, and Andrew Heckler says, why do you think so many people have issues with scent gland issues? If you guys want to talk about, have you guys ran into?
We've had one with a scent gland issue, and I honestly still don't know why. I don't really know what was wrong with that snake. I mean, she's still alive and she's fine, but I don't know. Like, I check them, I look at them, but I've heard all kinds of things like dirty environment, no more than anybody else in this room. I've heard, they don't express their glands enough. I've got plenty in this room that never musk once they get older. Mm-hmm. So I can't make it that either. I don't know if there's just some kind of predisposition in that particular animal that is preventing that from clearing correctly, just like we see in dogs that have anal gland issues. And there's some dogs that it's just like they're in every other week to have their anal glands expressed. They still get anal gland abscesses. And then you have another dog. We've got, I'm not kidding you, 18 dogs. Yes, we're that kind of people, because no, I didn't get rid of my dogs when I stopped showing them. They're just still back here living their life. I have never once expressed an anal gland on any of my dogs. They're not a predisposed breed either. So, and I know there's multiple snakes in this room that have glands. Why is it the hognose that seem to have more of an issue with it across the board? I don't know. And I know that they're a little bit more predisposed to bacterial infections than some species, but it's kind of, I've heard so many different theories on it, and none of them really make complete sense to me. So I've heard dehydration. I've heard, and I look at the snake that we've had the issue with, and I'm like, she's always had a clean tub. She's always eaten like a pig. She's always been in very good condition. I don't know why she has a scent gland issue, and she's probably never going to get bred because I'm not going to deal with it,
I was going to ask if you've noticed, because also I've heard it's like females that after breeding, they'll be more disposed to getting, scent gland issues and stuff like that. So that's another thing I've heard after laying eggs that they have problems. And just listening and brainstorming, it could just be like, I have a dog that it's allergic to everything. And when he has his allergic reactions, his anal glands get flared up and stuff like that. So I'm just thinking of like, it could just be the same thing with snakes. What if like they're allergic to the aspen or something like that, and it's causing them to have a reaction, but it's hard to pinpoint one specific thing when it's very, like
phase 2 of the genetic shed testing, making that allergy testing.
Yeah, allergy testing. Like, what is wrong? Why are these animals doing this weird stuff?
Yeah. And, that's like you said, it's one out of so many other animals that you have there that has, and it's set up exactly the same way, same care. Yeah. It's very
Well,
hard
and
to
it's like you think
pinpoint.
about, like, we have corn snakes, ball pythons, people, well, they have glands too. I mean,
Mhm.
they have them. Why don't they have problems like our species has with hognose, where you hear it, repetitively? I don't know. I mean, that's what I find fascinating. There's something different. And of course, their glands are used a little bit different because they do musk and those kind of things. So that probably has something to do with it. But you, we know other animals have glands in their anal region. And so,
Mhm.
I don't know. And, just to be completely open, it's our lavender female that would have been in rotation this year. Lavenders are known to have kind of random things. And I don't know if there is something about the immunity with her, even though she is a powerful eater, she's a monster. Never had any kind of respiratory issues, never had scale issues, but she has a unilateral gland issue that I've done antibiotics, multiple rounds of antibiotics. I've actually sliced it open and cleaned it out. I've done everything except gone and removed that gland. And again, like I
Mhm.
said, I'm not going to do a surgical procedure under anesthesia on an animal unless I've got Tom Harbin right there next to me.
Yeah. And to think about it, if it's not life threatening either, right? Like
No, she's
she's
fine. I
living a
mean,
good life. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, she's
And
not.
I've
She's just not going
seen,
to get bred.
yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I've seen people that have, what's it called? Animals with scent gland. I have one and they're perfectly fine. They
Yeah,
live their life, they eat, they grow.
yeah.
It's just one of those things. You touched already based on the shed testing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think you're pro? You're still on the fence about it? Where you guys?
I think I'm still kind of on the pro side more than on the fence side. I see there being potential issues with people breeding excessively. Then they can just test stuff and then cull and whatever. And so again, I don't know if it's going to open a door of that. I hope not. I hope people kind of pump the brakes a little bit with just kind of throwing stuff together. But we've used shed testing. We've actually used it hognose initially when we had some higher end females that were long tailed that I probed, Tom probed. We were all still like, what is this thing? And we sent it off and verified that it was female genetically, just so that we could give like a super Yeti female. You don't want to be questionable on something like that for that new owner. And so we did that in the beginning. And then I've actually got 2 this year that I've probed like 3 times. I've stared at them. I'm like, these have got to be females, but they probe a little bit deeper than a general female, but they're not as deep as a male. And so I'm sending shed tests off, and I'm not messing with it anymore. We've sent quite a few ball python sheds in as far as genetic testing. We have desert ghost stuff, which a lot of people ask about that. I don't really know the polygenic thing with that. That is weird. I mean, if you really talk to breeders with the DG line, most of them see it produce just like a simple recessive, but they're finding markers, and so we kind of have to go with it because they're finding things that are unusual and not like a simple recessive, and that's probably what took them so long to actually get any genetic testing back. But yeah, I do hope that we get some basic stuff for the hognose, like albino, aseptic, those kind of things. We have quite a few things that are pos het just because of our previous breeding. And I'd like to be able to not necessarily use that animal just willy-nilly and produce a bunch of random animals if I could breed them more strategically to the right direction. And so
it adds a level of confidence that you wouldn't have otherwise. You shouldn't have to prove them out, so you shouldn't have that 3 or 4 year cycle.
Yeah.
If you shed test, I would say that I would give 90% confidence.
Yeah.
That help you know what to withhold and what to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a new project holding back a whole clutch to try to prove it out. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. No, and I see the benefits for sure of what can come from shed testing. I've used the Sexton test as well. I think it's good. One thing that was interesting, I spoke to them in Arlington, and they mentioned that they were having a higher issues with undetermination on shed testing for hognose, and they asked also. I told I was like I had a couple of shed stuff here just to send to just for genetics and stuff like that whenever they start being able to do that. And they mentioned to start adding on, if you're putting on a Ziploc, adding what you're keeping your hognose on, or if it's in a moist hive, just so they can see if maybe it's environmental, that's something causing into the shed, or if it's just the animal itself.
I didn't know about that. Huh.
Yeah. I spoke to her. I forgot the lady that does the lives with them. I forget her name.
Dr. Morrell?
Well, she meant.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah. I don't remember her name, but she was because they've gotten that issue where, for some reason, exactly hognose are having a little more undetermined test there. Huh. So that's very interesting. If it might just be the hognose species, or environmental, because I'm pretty sure because they have the sex testing for all colubrids. Yeah. So I wonder, if like corn snakes, if they're having the same issue or not. But you mentioned hognose, that they are having the same issue.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard anybody talk about the corn snakes having, but I haven't heard that about the hogs either. So that's kind of to go and try to learn more about this.
Because I know I sent one in and it was undetermined. I had to send another shed to get it retested. So I had touched that base with them, and they told me that they've been having a couple more issues with that.
Fascinating. I wonder too, because I know they have issues with like contamination, even with the ball pythons. And like they want you to pull out the shed as soon as you can get it. Well, if you've ever lived with a hognose, they'll shed and poop in it and drag it through everything. And so some of it, they're contaminating it as it comes off of them because there's such crazy little animals wiggling around. Ball python, they do poop in their sheds sometimes, but usually there's just like this string of clean area with a little bit of mulch next to it. But the hogs are a little bit more, I think, intense. So you wonder if there's contamination just because of they're the way they live. They just live a little bit more busy, I guess. So.
Yeah, because like you said, once they start, they go through that shed, it sits there, and they're just going in and out of it. Yeah, that's interesting as well. Another topic I want to touch base was Husbandry Pro. So I know we talked about it a little bit at Daytona. Tell me a little bit of your experience with it and how you enjoy it. I'm pretty sure you do because you're using it.
So we actually started with Husbandry Pro back in August of 2021. So we've been with them for a while. And at that point, we still had a small population. And I do feel like that gave us an easier way to get into it because I was able to put animals in as we acquired them. I couldn't do this without Husbandry Pro. I got my notifications today, like this has got it, who eats. I mean, I know the general area, like this group eats on this day, based on my rotation, but it literally tells me what day everybody's due to eat. I would be just in here bumbling around, trying to figure it out. Then because it allows me to be able to pull up exactly my feeders, I can go to the freezer, I can pull out everything I need. We do feed. Several of our ball pythons still eat live. We have our own rodent colony. So I know what I've got to go pull from the colony when it's pulling for live stuff that day. That and Josh will be talking to somebody about a breeding pair. He'll go pull up the genetics. He's able to look at it and talk to him about it. And
people absolutely adore that at the shows when you can scan the QR code and see the parents, see when it's born, when it's fed. I mean, we see a lot of people that raise their eyebrows and look at their spouse like, because they know what they're getting.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're getting. And all of our animals at the shows have kind of like their general information on their tag, and then they do have their own private QR code. So people can click on there, and we put notes in there, like this one likes to eat off the tongue. This one, like some of the ball pythons eat live, those kind of things. We can tell them that right there, so that person knows everything about that animal they need to know about. And it's funny because we've been doing it with the hogs since the beginning. And then we've sold several ball pythons, and you would give them their little care sheet, and they're like, "We've never had anything with a ball python. We never even knew the last time it ate." And I'm like, "What?" And so even the ball python people that are starting to see that, they're like, "Wow, this is," once you get into it. And I know if we had a collection of 300 and then we wanted to jump into Husbandry Pro,
That'd be a lot.
that would be a lot. I mean, to go in there and list everything. So what I've told people that are already that far in is put your breeding pairs in. Put your breeding pairs in. That way, when you have your clutch, you have your incubator, you have got your clutch, you populate your animals. And I said, then you've got your babies that are going to be the ones that are probably going to go to new homes that you can start populating your information. Start with that first instead of like all your holdbacks that are just sub-adults that are growing up, that kind of thing. But
And there was a learning curve to it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there were several support tickets we had to put in.
Yeah.
We went to or logged into a lot of YouTube videos to try to learn the ins and outs of how to use it. I think it's more powerful than what we've even figured out how to
I
do
know
it
it
yet.
is.
I've not applied it to the mouse colonies yet. I haven't seen a need for it out there. I've got a little system of blue tape and pins that's good enough for now, but I could see it being easily applied to that also.
Yeah. Well, we also keep up. We don't keep up with everything with the rodents, but we keep up whenever we open a bag of shavings and we open a bag of food. So then we can go back into a month and see how much the rodents are costing us, and then how much we are actually pulling and then putting in the freezer. And then I still do purchase some, not a lot, but kind of backup rodents in case we have, God forbid, something happened with the colony. But in general, we're probably running 90% off of what we're producing with the rodents. But it also kind of it verifies why we do it that way, because when we look at our cost of our rodent care, compared to when we have to order something, it is just huge difference. And so we're saving so much money by doing that. And then we're eventually probably going to end up having to hire people in to do the rodent care. And that's going to give us the ability to be able to kind of monitor their work schedule and their time, and then how much we're paying out for that help. And so to make sure that we're staying in a balance.
Yeah. I think, I agree with everything you guys said about Husbandry Pro. One of my, like you said, put in your breeding pairs and then using the breeding system, creating the incubation and the eggs. If I have to manually enter every single baby, I don't know if I would.
Yeah.
I
Too much.
I feel like, it's way too much.
I was showing people at work the little like eggs, like this little timer that's got coming up. Like, this is how long till it hatches.
I love it.
I've got people at work excited about it, catching eggs they've never even seen.
Yeah, it's pretty cool with that. I think that's my favorite feature about Husbandry Pro, and it's about the breeding plan and being able to just create from incubation and then automatically set up your hatchlings into the system.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then it brings, like you said, all their parent information in if you have them into the system.
Well, it helped me, like when we do have more males than females. I think that's, well, at least the hognose. It's the opposite with the ball pythons and the corn snakes, but we do have a lot of backup males. And I do think that helps when we're really putting that list down. I've got all our males listed. I got the females. I'm like, are some of these females able to be paired to two different males and me be able to identify who's the sire if we have a dual sire situation or one sire or the other? And I can see that so much clearer when it's in that Husbandry Pro, because then I can just kind of look at their genetics right there in front of me. And I know people like to write it out, but I like it clean and clear cut. My handwriting is terrible. Okay. I am a doctor. And so my handwriting is awful. And so for me to see it so pretty and laid out like that, it just helps my mind. And I show him and he's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. And, then he may ask me like, why are you doing this? And then it makes me go, well, I don't know why I'm doing that. And so we both are able to look at it equally and be able to adjust it easily in that program. And like I said, I don't see how we would do this at this point without Husbandry Pro. It's vital to the entire operation going smoothly.
I know Dad
I
used a
agree.
system that actually worked great for him, but it was 3.5 or 3x5 cards, and so everything was tracked with that. He had a book, and so he's kind of got his book of knowledge that he has to carry with him. We don't want to share a single book, so we just have that app so we can both look at current data at any given moment. So for me and her, it works really well.
And logging the feedings for the babies it's really nothing, because they're due, and this is what people ask me, how do you do it when you have like 60, 100 babies, 120 babies to feed? I'm like, well, they're due that day, and who doesn't eat, which is a small percentage, I scan that little code that's on the front of their tub, I mark refused. Everybody else that's left to do that eat, quick activities, full population, bam, all those 3 seconds later, it's populated. It's done. So it is so easy when you have it scheduled like that, and you're really overall, you're only scanning 2 or 3 animals here and there per group that didn't eat, because most of them were eating.
Yep, I agree. Yes, same situation. And then the info sheet that you can provide for those hatchlings.
Yeah,
people have loved them.
Love it.
Usually the night before I ship out, I'll send the email out with the info sheet, and I'll get a message. What is this? I've never seen this before. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask you when was the last day, when was it born? What are the parents' genetics? Everything's there laid out.
The parents are on there, everything.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And the customers so far have loved it, and I think for us at least, especially being newer, taking that extra step and standing out compared to other people has definitely helped us with our reputation and keeping selling hatchlings this year. It was really cool to hear that. We got our partnership with Husbandry Pro. So if you guys are listening, you guys have heard from both sides that it's a must-have at this point.
It's a must-have.
If you're breeding, especially if you're breeding, it's a must-have.
Yeah.
So go guys, go check it out. There's a 30. That's another thing. You can try it out for 30 days free.
Yeah, free.
And
I think I tried it out for I think it's like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, I'm buying this.
Same for me.
30 days.
Same. I go, what? Because I think when I first started, when I had like maybe 3 or 4 hognose, I was using one of the mobile apps on the iPhone. And then once it started growing and then thinking about breeding, I was like, okay, this doesn't work. I tried to do the notebook thing. I didn't like it. My handwriting's not the best. I go, I got to find an actual, program. And I found Husbandry Pro, and I'm happy I did. Earlier, you touched base about brumation and stuff like that. Walk us through a little bit on how you guys do your brumation process and temperatures on that.
So, is that now? That's the incubator. That's the incubator. So our brumation process is starting right now. I usually actually kind of feed off the subadult and adult males because most of ours eat very consistently. But it seems like somewhere around September, October, some of them will get a little off schedule and they'll start gapping out. So once I get several boys that are kind of like, I don't really want this, then that's kind of my mark. Like, okay, I fed everybody today. Bam, we're going into this. And that happened about a week and a half ago. And so everybody's got tags right now. They got little blue tags that are going into brumation. And what I'll be doing is Sunday will be 2 weeks from their last feeding. And I give them 2 weeks off, still full temperature. And then what I'm going to do over about a 3 to 4 day period, I'll drop their thermostat temps on their heat, their underbelly heat in their racks till it gets down to room temperature. And then I'm going to probably the Sunday after that, I will put them all in their containers, and they will all have smaller containers. They don't go into very big containers into their brumation setup. They'll have a little thing of water. I will check that because every once in a while they're still moving around a little bit, but they will have substrate in there, a little thing of water. I will put them in our brumation container, which is a very large, it's a 6-foot tall wine cooler that Josh also converted to an incubator. So it has a completely separate plug-in system when it's an incubator, which we just unplugged a couple weeks ago because we were done with the corn snakes. And now it's going to get plugged back in and let the wine cooler balance out. And we bring them down over again about a 5-day period down to about 54 degrees. And it fluctuates in there 52, 53, 54. I do like to keep them blacked out so they'll have a cover completely over that. I don't want any light source in there. We're already had the light change here where it's dark in the morning for a while. It's getting darker in the evening. So I think that's helping because we do have a little ambient light come into this room. But they'll be completely darked out and running around 53 degrees. And I usually keep them in there for about 10 minutes. Then I warm them up gradually, put them back in the racks, warm them up again over a few-day period, and I start feeding immediately. And I don't really ever have a problem with them eating. They just start eating immediately. I do check their weights going in, and I check their weights coming out. And I do check on them I peek in there, but I check on each one of them every couple of weeks and make sure that the water looks okay, that everybody looks like they're physically okay, nobody's losing weight. I've heard of people finding them dead in the, brumation thing. That freaks me out every year thinking about that. So far, we haven't had that issue, knock on wood, that we don't have that. But it'll happen eventually because we've got that many animals. It's going to happen. But so that's kind of the process. My goal is before Valentine's Day, I should see lots. So that's kind of my mental process.
Yeah.
Say I should see lots.
Okay. So you cut it out. For how long do you brumate?
10 weeks. 10 weeks.
10 weeks. Okay. 10 weeks.
Yeah.
That's I mean, about a little over 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what substrate do you guys use in the containers?
I still use aspen chip in there,
Mhm.
although I've thought about cocoa core. Some of these animals have always been on aspen, and so I don't really want to change their world. But I have some newer girls. I'm like, maybe I'll do a little experiment and put some of them on cocoa core and some of them still on their original aspen that they're used to, because I do use cocoa core in their lay boxes. So it's like,
Mhm.
you might as well get used to that. So I don't know. I actually just got that box in the cocoa core that I think I'm going to do kind of like a split and see what they do with it.
Yeah. And then do you guys see a drop in weight from when they go in and they come out, or not really?
No, I mean like 2 or 3 grams maybe, but
Okay.
nothing. I've never really seen anybody drop heavy coming out.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of
So-
amazing. They don't eat for that long and they don't really change. So
Yeah. We use cocoa core, just
Yeah.
cocoa core, moist cocoa core and brumated. No water bowl since the cocoa core is moist.
Yeah.
I actually had females that gained a couple grams through the brumation.
wow, really?
Yeah, I was very
Wasted.
surprised. Yeah. Because of the moisture, so they're probably still drinking and absorbing the water. I did have friends that last year switched from aspen to cocoa core, and they say they saw a big difference in just the what's it called, the hydration of the
That makes
animal
sense.
coming out.
That's kind of one
and-
reason I thought about doing it, because it
Mhm.
never fails. I would check it and their water bowl is dried up and they somehow dumped it. Then I'm worried about mold or something happening, even though it doesn't really happen that low temperature. But I that's kind of one reason I thought, hey, we might need to try something different this year. So
Mhm. Yeah, and they're sort of like, we're not going back to aspen. We're gonna keep doing the cocoa core.
that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were surprised too as well, because they like you said, their animals didn't lose too much weight, but it was how dehydrated they looked sometimes coming out of brumation, that they
Okay.
sometimes took an
Better
extra,
hydrated.
yeah,
Better
took a little
hydrated.
bit extra time to
And
to get back to normal.
it kind of makes sense because of where they would be in the wild, would be in a burrow of dirt that probably had moisture. And so the coca core is more equivalent than what the aspen chip would be in that situation. Aspen chip is nice to clean, but we're not worried about that while they're in brumation. So it does kind of make sense why the coca core kind of maintains them better, I guess, in that sense. So
Right.
I may do everybody on that. You may just convince me to do that, but I don't know. Maybe the Axanthic Conda girl that has been, this will be her 5th breeding year because the guy that had her before had bred her. She's always been on Aspen. That's the one I'm like, I don't know if she'll adjust or not, but she does fine with her cocoa core human hide. So I don't think she would probably care that much.
Yeah, I've even been throwing around the idea lately of once they come out of brumation, instead of doing aspen in their bins, doing cocoa corn sand mix too as well, and keeping them like that from now on. But like you said, I might do 1 or 2 females and see how they do before I fully switch everybody. Yeah, at least when they come out of brumation. We had somebody ask, do you crypto test right after they come out of brumation since their immune system is lower for that event? Personally, no, I don't see any point of doing it unless maybe you think an animal's really sick. But coming out of brumation, those animals that haven't eaten, there's no any signs that I would want to test at that point.
I don't know if you'd even really get that reliable of a test either, because their gut has been so quiet for so long. And the problem with crypto testing too is you could do multiple fecals on animals and they could still come back negative because of it being a gastric based organism. And so I think if they come out of brumation, they look healthy, they haven't lost weight, they get back to food. I don't crypto test ours. And so, I mean, we've crypto tested a few of ours in the past that have had weird stools or regurg situations. And I do crypto test the regurg. I don't do the foul. If they regurg, that gets tested because you're going to get a more reliable result that way. But as far as, and even honestly, crypto testing incoming animals, you may not get reliable results. And so, quarantine, then if you start getting regurges and weird bowel movements and stuff like that, definitely test for that because you just do not want that. But I honestly don't really do anything to stress our animals coming out of brumation. I get them warmed up and I get food in their belly. And we do actually dust our feeder mice too with a calcium vitamin D supplement for the females. And I probably should do it for the males too. I mean, they deserve some help, but I do that while if they come out of brumation just to kind of help get their body ready. I don't do it every meal, but usually every 3rd meal, and then I'll do a vitamin supplement usually like once a month while they're in that reproductive state. But we don't test really overall.
Yeah. And talking about the crypto testing, it's when I started hearing about it and I did my research, what I found that the best most accurate test is like a gastric lavage, because you get it directly from the stomach and the
exactly.
So, and that's invasive to the snake as well.
Very stressful.
So, so like you said, a lot of like the fecal tests and stuff like that, it can be very hit or miss on what the results you're gonna get. So it's good to hear that other people have same research or thoughts about it on it. And because I've talked to a vet as well, a reptile vet in a local area, and he told me the same thing. It's, if you really want to do, get a 100%, result on it, it's do a gastric lavage. And same thing he says, I wouldn't do it.
I've never done it. I don't ever plan to do that. Like I said, that's why, like, if something regurges, which is extremely rare, then I'll test that regurg. But I don't really feel like you're going to get good results from your fecal matter anyway. So.
Yeah. And I think the biggest proactive thing about doing crypto is quarantining and monitoring those animals that you're bringing in, minimum 3 months quarantine.
3 months.
And
3 months.
and
Yeah,
watch
and sometimes
watch
I
what
get a
they're
little
doing.
twitchy and they go longer.
Another thing too, like I've seen where we want to feed the animals a lot quicker that they what's it called, that they need to, or bigger meals, especially when they're small. And if you push down a bigger meal on a small hatchling, you are going to get a regurg.
Yeah.
It's going to regurg, and it doesn't mean the animal's sick. It's just their body can't take that big
Can't
of a
handle
meal.
it. Yeah. I'm like a regurg paranoid freak, and that actually started with my corn snake 2 decades ago. Whenever I would get like a really big mouse, he could take it down. He's a big snake, but it always seemed to be that's when he would regurg. And I ended up finally realizing that I was just feeding too big of meals, and so I would go to small ones, and sometimes I'd even do 2 small ones at the same feeding, and he usually would do fine. Of course, he's 28, so he's doing fine. And so whenever I pushed the hatchling with, like, even when I gave it to him, like, crap, that looks a little bit big, then those are the ones that I end up seeing regurg. And that's very rare because we feed so tiny now that I know mine are like, give me more, but I don't want to overfeed them. And like even our hognose females, we only feed like hopper size mice. We feed more frequently, but we only feed hopper size. I just don't want to induce a regurg that could damage them for one thing, but also causes like an extreme amount of panic with me. Because then regurg is in the tank, I'm swabbing it, I'm shipping it off, and I'm holding my breath for several days. And so, it's always one of those things that I think it's preventable because most of these guys can digest if you give them an appropriate size mouse that's of good quality also. And that's one reason we always tell people that buy animals from us, some of the reputable rodent supply groups, don't go to PetSmart and get them. And that's one reason we're control freaks too. We continue to breed all of ours simply because I want them to, have the best quality. And he's got that figured out. Like those mice and rats are in like they've got it good. They got it better than some of the snakes, I guess.
It is kind of funny when you pull some of ours out of the freezer. They're little chublets.
Yeah, they're like little fat
things.
rodents. I'm like, wow, these things are impressive.
But actually, we quit going by the just naming size. We quit going by like pinky, fuzzy collar. We started weighing everything, so we know this animal at this space is getting 4 grams per meal.
Yeah,
or 6 grams per meal.
and I'm very strategic about those. Our animals eat 10% of their body weight or less. So those.
Yeah, I like that percentage. When somebody asked me, well, what size mice do I feed them? And I said 10% of their body weight. So if the animal's is weighing, a hatchling 10 grams, you feed a 1 gram mice, that's about a day old, a day old. So it makes sense, right? What we're feeding them. I had a female this year that lost a lot of weight after her second clutch, and I was feeding her hoppers, and I thought she was getting ready to get to like a medium mice, and she wasn't ready, and she regurged. And then I waited about a week, 2 weeks, fed her hopper, and then just kept her feeding hopper, and then she was fine after that.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was too quick to jump to the next size, especially after losing so much weight. Yeah. I think people haven't talked about that as much of what causes regurg sometimes, and sometimes it's just the size of the meal, or maybe heat temperatures, not processing their food enough. And then what do you guys think about handling the animal after they're eating? What are your thoughts on that?
We don't mess with our animals for about 4 days. And even like when we take snakes to the show, they get fed at least 5 days, 4 days at the very minimum. It depends on the species, but 5 days before we're even loading them to go to the show. And we typically tell people at the show when they get their baby snake, they give them at least 3 days before you start messing with them again after they've eaten. And so I don't do a lot of handling with our animals anyway. And when I feed a lot of them, that's when I clean, because we honestly have some ravenous females that I don't know how I still have fingers, because they just are very hungry. And so that's when I put a mouse in their face. They get moved over to their little side area. They're eating, and I'm doing their tub clean, or I'm changing to a new tub at that point, because it's just so much easier. So a lot of that is all happening at the same time. So I don't really mess with them in between.
You're about 30 seconds.
I'm a fast cleaner because I know I'm going to get eaten.
Yes, some of those big girls will take you down the mice real fast.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had some dog show friends over last month, and we were trying to show, or she was trying to show us one of those docile females we have.
Yeah.
It just tagged her on the
me.
finger. She starts gushing blood.
It hit me in
from
the
a
right
hognose
place,
bite.
and there's blood all over the floor. This hognose is thrilled because there's blood in her mouth, so
Yeah.
she's clamping down even harder. She's about a 380-gram snake hooked onto my finger. And I had her son to show them, like, here's your mom. So I'm throwing Josh a Yeti across the room. You're catching the snake. I got to get the snake off my hand. Finally plucked it off and tossed her. I've never been bit by this snake, ever. She's the one that ate her second clutch this year, though. So she's got something going on, I guess. She's gotten hungrier. But threw her back in the cage and had to go bandage myself up. And luckily the dog show people didn't totally freak out, because it was intense for a minute.
Yeah, I guess I could definitely see that going. That's why we don't like reptiles, you know.
Yeah, it's like, they're like, that has to hurt. I'm like, it really doesn't.
You know, I haven't gotten a good bite, and knock on wood, I've gotten, you know, little nibbles here and there, but never a gusher. Never really, you know, maybe a little pinpoint, what's called, of blood, but never anything really big on even the big females.
Yeah, and I always seem to do it when there's a show, because Dr. Warren Booth was at our house a few months ago hanging out, and he wanted to see the hognose, and we were talking genetics and everything. And I was like, well, let's show him this snake. She tags me, a whole nother snake tags me, like right on the hand. And of course, he's laughing, and we're trying to peel this thing off my hand. She's a voracious eater. And I'm like, why does this doesn't happen when I'm by myself and nobody's watching this? And that's why I was like, God, if Beverly wants us to get snakes out tonight, I'm going to get bit because they're on TV. It's going to happen.
We'll skip that today. We don't want to get. We'll give your hand a break. What else? I was going to ask you. Just a general husbandry. If I was, you know, first time purchaser at a show, general husbandry for a hognose, what's your recommendations on the setup, temperatures, and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So we usually actually recommend people using smaller containers. You know, everybody always comes up, they seem to always have a 20-gallon. Like, that's a little much for, you know, a 15-gram hognose. Not that some of them would probably go right in there and do fine. But we usually actually recommend people either finding like one of the 5 or 8 gallon setups, or even finding one of the quart, like 6 quart flip top lids, the Tupperware containers, which I know are not really fancy, but you know, put some holes in it. We teach them how to do that. And we do like them to have a heat. We try to explain gradient to them, you know, warm side and the cool side. They need to be able to move back and forth. And so, we explain usually for them to try to have high 80s, no more than like 93. We feel like that's really too hot for them, but high 80s to like mid to no lower than like 72, 73 on the cold side. Multiple high, good water source. We typically recommend Aspen chip, because I think it's the easiest for people to get or clean. Actually, our babies are raised up for about the first 3 months on cypress mulch, which does help with the sheds of the babies. And we tell people you can still use that, but just don't add water to it. And some people that already have ball pythons, they'll say, well, can we use the cocoa block? And we're like, yeah, just don't add extra moisture to it. But they could be on that, but just be conscientious of the size of it so they don't inadvertently eat it. We teach them to have like a little container. We actually send little plates home with them because we don't want them eating substrate. So we try to tell them, either use your plate or turn your hide over and put your pinky in there so they're not dragging substrate into their mouth, although they still seem to do it, But we then again also tell them try not to handle them for the first few days. Give them a chance to eat. Handle them 2 or 3 days ideally after they've eaten, and then give them a day of rest before you try to feed them again. Most of ours we feed every 5 days, but I tell them, you get to your routine, they can live fine on every 7 days, and no heat lamps, no UV lamps. We don't feel like you need any of that. So that's kind of like our big points when we're talking to people about taking care of, especially a baby, a new one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very interesting on the container or the enclosure size. I was doing a local Repticon, and the local reptile supply vendor that sets up at the local Repticons had a small, like you're seeing them, they're the plastic. They already have the holes made into them, and it pops open. They had it for tarantula setup. I go, that would be great for hognose setups.
Yeah.
I was like, if you can do a quick hognose starter kit, I'll definitely tell people to come by it, and if they buy a hognose, if they need a setup, to get it from you here. I go, and then he goes, man, I didn't even think about that. That makes sense.
That does make sense. That does make sense. I think
there was somebody at the Knoxville show, like purple box or something, and they had a tarantula can. Really well made. Really,
it was acrylic, and it had this really cool slide. It had enough heights to it too, but this slide mechanism that had like the magnets into it and some good ventilation on the side. I'm like, this is about the right size for under a yearling, and I think that's the thing is, like, we've had plenty of them go home and people put them in a big container and they did fine, but these guys, we raise ours in JP and Reptilia, so they're in small little containers, and so it could be a little bit of a shocker if you're all of a sudden in like a 10 or 20 gallon container or closure for a new baby. And so we are really kind of ones that we do push for smaller containers initially, and then move them into something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, same for us. I try to steer them to get something more similar to what we have them in, especially so they don't get that shock of being switched over to a wide open space. And then I tell them, look, it's first of all, it's inexpensive to do that quick startup, that small, like start like 7-quart, 6-quart container. I go first few months, and then after they're settled into your home and they're eating fine, then I would upgrade to your 10 and 20 gallon, after they've grown a couple months time. So I'm glad that it's similar train of thoughts are around. You see, Andrew, do you quarantine show animals after shows? Do you allow people to handle animals? That's a great question, actually.
Well, we don't allow people to handle our animals, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost always a one person that wants to take a picture with their phone. Yeah. They're not going to buy it.
Yeah, so
that's a generalization.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do that with the ball pythons, the corn snakes, or the hognose.
And that's like, well, I use hand sanitizer. I've held other animals and I've used hand sanitizer.
It was at a show a few weeks ago. This girl was like, I want to hold one that, and decide which one I want. I said, have you been touching other animals here? And she's like, yeah, I held some over there. I said, there ain't no sanitizer that's going to clean the potential that you've got on your hand right now. I said, we cannot risk the colony for somebody just to hold on to an animal. And no, we don't quarantine coming back from the show. The babies are in one part of the room. We rarely take adults because we rarely have adults to sell. Usually a ball python will be able to sell. But again, we typically are with people that we know, we're friends with, that we're set up. Or like this week, we got pretty lucky. We were just kind of in our own little thing. There was nobody next to us. And whenever we do have like a group of people near us that we don't know, we usually actually have kind of like our earrings and like our digits and gadgets and stuff on that side of the table, so there's kind of a barrier. And the ball pythons are on that end of the table. It sounds awful, but I can deal with ball python stuff, and so we don't dip or do mite treatments for our ball pythons. They come in, they come back to their container, but again, we don't let people handle them. And so one thing that we decided to do is we have a little hognose male from last year. His name is Split because he actually has where his ventral scales, probably about a third of his belly, that's where it is umbilicus area, the scales never come together. Now his peritoneal layer is fine, like he's closed up and he eats and poops, and he's absolutely fine. But we're never going to sell that animal. I'm not going to just give it to anybody just to take care of. And he's never going to be bred. And so he's just kind of hanging out here. He's super easy to handle. So we actually just recently acquired a little container, an enclosure that we're going to make kind of more like what a pet owner would set up. And he's going to go into a different part of the house. He's going to be not in the reptile room anymore. And he's going to be the one we're going to let people touch. Because, if he got something from somebody, he's going to be someplace else. And he is not going to be handled the same way that we would handle the rest of the population. So I do think we need to fill them, because they feel different. But we don't want to risk any of our animals getting something out of show either. So
I think that's a great idea because, like you said, you have those every show. You have a handful of people. Can I hold one? Can I take a picture with one? I've never held one. I'm interested. So I think that's a great idea, like an ambassador animal. A let me hold you and separate it from your breeding stock, is separated from anything else that in case something happens. It's controlled in one environment. Because I think that it does help with sometimes make a person making a decision if they're going to get an animal or not sometimes, or during that teetering phase where like, I want one, but I've never held one. And then holding one makes the last decision.
Changes. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And then I think, having, or just maybe not even allowing them to hold it, but just having a animal set up in a enclosure, it's very eye appealing to the pet owner as well.
Yeah, you can see what it looks like and what you can do with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a recurring question we get every time. Like, what's the transition from this stuff to what do we do with it at home? I think you have the example. I love that phrase, the ambassador animal, because we are ambassadors for the hobby. We're kind of a niche market, and it's a good way to help encourage people to get the hobby, because you don't have to get these animals shots. You don't have to go board them. It's okay to go away for a week and leave the snakes at the house. So they're really great pets, and we hope we can put Split to use.
Yeah.
Today I actually had earlier before the show, I had a a presentation at my daughter's school, her middle school. Last year I did one, and this year I just did one today, and it was presenting hognose, everything about a little bit about snakes, but specifically hognose to the students. They have a medical magnet program at the school. So the sixth graders do animal science in that magnet program. So last year my daughter was in sixth grade, and I was talking to the teacher. She goes, "Oh, she was intrigued about the snakes, and she was like, would you be willing to come and do a quick presentation?" So I did one today. Last year they did one. The kids loved it. This year I did it again, and again, had a good turnout. This year we did it after school, and kids actually stayed there. They get out at 4 and they were there till like 6 o'clock, trying to learn about the snakes and reptiles. So it was really cool to see that ambassador program working with the local community, especially with kids.
Man, Dad did that with me when every grade year we'd have to go to another snake show because we had a new set of teachers. Back then we had like a big 13-foot Burmese. So that was always the showstopper thing we pull out at the end. I remember in middle school, we got that animal out. It took me and Dad holding it, and it pooped all over me. And the kids thought that was great.
It's great.
So it smelled like snake poop. food at school. But anyway, yeah, that is cool to be able to have that opportunity to go to schools and get people introduced to. Most people don't see snakes on.
And also see where they're not scary animals. Unfortunately, a lot of people are raised to be fearful of them, and we should respect them in the wild, especially. They're obviously, you need to respect any animal in the wild, but I do think being able to see that there are species that you can handle and they're safe, and I'd much rather be bit by one of my 3,000 gram ball pythons than a cat. And so you're gonna have a doctor's visit with a cat, and so I don't think people think about it like that. And I being a veterinarian, I've seen dogs. I saw one of my technicians almost get killed by a large Great Pyrenees, and it was I have flashbacks from it, and we both still get a little twitchy when one of those dogs come in, even though most of them are really good. But that dog almost killed her. And, people are so like, oh, it's a dog, it's a cat, it's no big deal. I'm like, there's very few animals in this room that could do that much damage. There's none in this animal. I mean, I got bit on the abdomen by a ball python a few weeks ago, and there's a tiny scar, but, that's it, a little bit of blood drawn. But I don't think people, they don't see the reptiles. They're so fearful of the poisonous snakes, is what they always say. I'm like, oh, can you not even say it right? So it's just it's frustrating, but it's fun to be able to teach people like there's a lot of really good species out there to
yeah, and I think for kids, especially at that age, they're so impressionable. And I think last year and this year I asked. One of the first questions I asked, who's scared of reptiles or snakes? And, a handful of hands go up, even though they're in an animal thing, they're probably not, interested in reptiles or snakes. And usually after the presentation, everybody wants to line up to hold one.
Yeah, they're ready to touch it.
And,
yeah,
they want to touch it. One of the biggest misconceptions we've all heard about snakes, they're slimy, right? And especially hognose, with their keeled scales, when somebody holds the hognose for the first time, like, oh wow, this is actually the texture is very interesting. It's not slimy. Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
So it's with at shows, do you do a lot of educational? You think you sit there and there's a lot of how do you handle it? How do you what do they eat? The very basic stuff.
Yeah. I think probably I'd say the majority of what we're doing there is really just educating people. And we have a lot of people come up that have never seen a hognose in person, or they're interested in that as their first species. And what's the difference between having this kind of animal versus this kind of animal? And, some people that have ball pythons already, well, if I have a ball python, what's the difference? And so it's one reason we do have that species is because we wanted to be able to be comfortable saying, well, this is why the hognose is better. And sorry, ball python people, but they're still at the top of my list. And so, I do think being able to contrast them and then be able to teach people what are the pros of having hognose. They're smaller snake. They're never going to take a large prey item. All of ours and most of the industry is raised on frozen bod, so you're not dealing with live. The males are smaller. You can even have smaller containers and those kind of things. Probably the cons are if you get a ravenous one, the potential of getting bit and having a problem with that bite is always there. So we do try to educate people about that. We do put codes on our Husbandry Pro thing that says WB. Whenever you see one of those on our labels, it's a will bite. Those are the ones that just launch out of the cage, ready to eat at any given moment. Those will not go home with a child, period. I mean, even if that's that kid's favorite one in the box, it will not go home with a kid that's wanting that snake. We've had parents come in with children and they're like, this is going to be the kid's snake. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to pick the right animal that can be handled by that child, that you're going to be monitoring that child while they're handling it at every given moment in case something happens. And we actually have our business cards made into this thicker plastic and we teach everybody how to run that under that rostral scale, pop those rear fangs out. And we tell people to leave it because you're set up, indefinitely until you learn what that personality of that snake is. But we're really pretty picky on the temperaments of the animals going to certain places because we sure don't want, somebody, especially a kid, getting bit. Now, an adult, that's on them, they can figure it out. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys, a viewer asked, would you recommend a hognose for a child's first snake?
Depends on that personality of that snake. And it depends on how connected that parent is to the situation, and how old the kid is. There are children that shouldn't be taking care of anything as their first animal or first snake, and you kind of have to get a feel of that parent, how much they're going to be involved in that care. But I know we've sold several snakes to kids that are, 11, 12, 13 plus. Their parent was very engaged with it, and the hognose was their first snake, and we keep getting updates, and it's just been wonderful. But it did matter, and because we feed our animals, we see how they act. We know which ones temperament wise can go to a kid.
Yeah. My answer to the question is yes. Like exactly what you said. Just checking out what the animal. There are those super food motivated animals that no matter what, if you feed them today, tomorrow morning, they're going to come out with their mouth open.
Full force.
Yeah.
Those are usually good for people that don't mind getting bit or that eventually may want to breed, yes. And I'm like, you want the most voracious eaters in your breeding program. So you have that built into your breeding program. And that's why so many of ours are really difficult to handle. They're not what I consider pets because they're too hard to handle as far as not getting bit. But they are, I know they're going to eat every meal. Now I'm a little concerned about them eating more than they should during breeding season, but we'll have to cross that bridge when it happens.
I've tried to design some kind of little muzzle to put on the female and scare the male. It's not what you're attached to.
Yeah. Man. Luckily I haven't had even like one of my crazy eaters. I haven't seen them try to eat the male. But yeah. I don't know what seeing that would be horrific.
It freaked me out. Yeah. We haven't had that issue. Our very first year though, we had paired a female with a fairly smaller male. I mean, it was a little questionable. I was like, yeah, and she was doing all the twitching. Everything looked fine. He was doing the twitching. I'm like, okay, I'm going to close the tub up. Well, a couple of hours later, I come back and I pull the tub open, and this is when we still use substrate during breeding season, and he's not there. And I'm like, oh my God, where is he? And then all of a sudden, I see this little nose come up and tongue flicker. And I was like, oh, he's right there. And I went to grab him, and she comes full mouth after him as I'm like trying to pull him away. I'm like, I'm sorry, little buddy, we ain't going to do that again. So he never got paired with her again. We had a male that was about 140 gram male that got put in with her, and he dealt with her insanity. And so it was a scary moment.
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, talking about like the first time, the first snake for a child. I have my 7-year-old that we've had the hognose forever, and she's been handling them. But like you said, how involved we are, and we have so many, so we're they're dealing with a lot of different sizes, babies, and she's gotten bitten a couple times just coming in here, handling and feeding, because she does like to feed the animals. And same thing. I've taught him how to, pull on the rostral scale and get them off.
Pop them off.
So I've never had any issues with them, like just chewing on one of my daughter's fingers and stuff like that.
Get them off. Yeah, get them off fast.
So I think that's the biggest, when people ask, do they bite, right? And I think that's when I take the chance, like, yes, of course they're gonna bite. Yeah. There's always a chance to bite. I was like, but if you get bit, this is what you do, and explain to them.
Yes.
My daughter today, like a puppy or a kitten, they expect it to bite. They expect it to chew on
Chew
their
on it.
shoes and kind of attach it.
It's got a mouth.
But if
It's
a
gonna have-
snake does it, they're like, "Oh, it's a horrible pet." Like,
But yeah, it's cute. A puppy or kitten is cute and cuddly, so it's acceptable, right? And that's where I think people draw that line. So my daughter, my eldest daughter, she has a snake that she has her own breeding project. Was it a double head coral female conda? And that's one of the females. She's a biter. No matter when you open this up, she goes, "How come you didn't bring my snake to the school?" I was like, "I don't need none of your classmates getting bit."
No,
She goes,
no.
"She doesn't bite me." I go, "That's because you know how to handle her, and you already know." But somebody that's just gonna pick her up, they're gonna get bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. Yeah. Sure.
It's funny.
So, any other topics you guys want to cover before we close out tonight?
I think the neatest thing for us, or for me, at the shows, people walk down our table, they see, "Oh, ball pythons." I'm like, "Oh, corn snakes." Then they go, "Woo, hognose! Hey, come on!"
They light up every time.
People get so excited about them.
They
So
do.
It's fun to share that joy with people. They ask all these questions. They're involved at that point. So it's a very, very fun species. So.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. I agree. I'm one of the only exclusively hognose breeders that has done most of the local shows in our area.
Yeah.
So when I set up, I had this last show, I had 80 hatchings on my table. So when people come, they're like, "Oh my God, I've never seen such a variety of hognose at a show before." It's really cool to see everything.
Yeah, we like this show this weekend. We were the only hognose people there, and I think there was one table that had like 3 that had multiple species of other things. But we generally are, in our area at least, one of the only hognose people that show up. So it's kind of fun to see people get excited when they see them. But the industry will change. They'll get more hognose people, breeders out there. And that's good. I think that's good for the industry. But it is cool when it's like, we're the only ones there with the hogs right now. So
it is very cool. Yep. Yeah. So we're gonna close out. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. We already have 2 hours in.
nice.
We probably keep going another hour or two. But I like to keep it, 2 hours max. It does get long-winded sometimes. But my last question for you guys is, and I close out all my podcasts with this, is if you guys had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would your message be to the world?
Oh my.
Be excellent to each other. No, that was Bill and Ted. They already said that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know, be good to each other. I think be good to those around you, be good to everybody that you come in contact with. I think so many people don't live like that. And you do that in your daily activity, your exposure to other people. If you can be good to people, then maybe they can be good to the next person. And, life isn't a competition. It shouldn't be. We can go play games to be competitive, but we should be here to help each other.
I absolutely love that about the reptile community. All these podcasts everybody's doing to help each other. What do you do? How do you set up? And people come by the table. I want to help them be successful. I don't care if they're the next big breeder and they outcompete us or someone. We do.
Who cares?
I got a roof over my head. I'm good.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, that's probably my big thing with people is just in dealing with the public every day. It's like, can we not just be better to each other? Just treat each other better.
We sound like a couple hippies.
Oh, we do, don't we? We're really not that bad. But,
I agree. And what came to my mind, probably viewers that are younger than us, movie Pay It Forward. It's a great movie. I forget who's the actor. I forget. He's like a high school teacher and stuff like that. I forget the actor. But that's a great movie. I think right now that would be a great, especially for the younger generation to watch that movie. Just being kind to each other just because.
Yeah.
Don't expect, You don't have to expect something back sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So my last words is, again, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Make sure viewers go follow them on Instagram. Go check out their morph mark. Go check out their website because they have a lot of cool stuff uploaded onto their sites, Hatch and Hognose. I didn't look at the ball pythons because, to be honest, ball pythons, they're cool, but they do not interest me. Everybody has their own little species, right?
The
yeah,
main
go ahead
reason
and
they sucked me in is the genetic complexity, and it is intense. And they, as far as the species, it's not my favorite, obviously, but the genetics are so amazing that it's kind of hooked me in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, genetics wise, ball pythons, it's infinite.
It
at
is.
this
It
point.
truly
The
is.
combos and stuff it's pretty wild on that spectrum.
But the hogs are definitely, they've got everything else. They've got it covered for everything. So
I likewise here. So go ahead and follow them on social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here, like the video, and watch it on replay. There's a good amount of little hidden gems that they dropped on husbandry, keeping the hog nose, that definitely can help somebody that's just getting into the hobby. And good information that we had tonight. Thank you guys. Any last words before we sign off tonight?
we really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. You're doing a lot of good stuff for the community.
Thank you guys. I'm gonna end the stream, but stay back real quick. So again, good night, everybody. Have a good night and have a good rest of